A Day and a Life. Chapter 20. The Cardinal Office. The hinge that begins to close the door on the day at the end of the afternoon and the beginning of evening. The sun sits low in the sky, flooding in through the great west window and the open door to fill the church with hazy amber light, the colour of silence and gentleness, the colour of kindness and peace, the colour of friendship. The community rises, the reader asks a blessing, the cantor sets the swell of the chant flowing in rhythm from one side of the choir to the other, and so the day quests towards its end. Brother Ced's stall is still empty. The abbot and novice master no longer question each other's glance. They are just waiting, hoping. Vespers sung, the brethren filter through to the lavatorium to wash their hands, then into the frata for supper. Today, Brother Ced should have been serving. No comment is made, beyond the novice master asking Brother Robert to take his turn. The servers have set out the dishes for them, and Colin inspects their contents with more interest than usual. The bread and salad they always have, and small beer, butter, a very modest allocation of soft white cheese, half an egg. Sometimes they would have a whole egg. It's only now Colin realises he's looking at the result of the kitchener's efforts to make limited amounts stretch. Because they ate the eggs when they would have had chicken or fish, they're short on eggs now. Because the big cheeses in store have diminished substantially, they're on to what Brother Conradus can make in just a few days from their own herd's milk as it comes in. Colin can see now what is done to try and eke things out. Give them a substantial portion of bread, made it with herbs and plenty of oil so it tastes really good, and added to it a generous allowance of butter. There are big dishes of plums, baskets of apples, and bowls of blackberries on the tables. A really nice supper, in fact. The blackberries are shining, still wet. It took a long time to pick them, and then, after he had, Conradus discovered in among them a considerable quantity of tiny thread-like white caterpillars, hard to pick off. So he soaked them through the afternoon, then washed them through 3 waters, and he's hoping that's enough. He's set out bowls of whipped cream at intervals along the tables. His hope is that if any of the tiny larvae remain, they'll be mistaken for minute stray splashes of cream. Provided no one watches long enough to see them wriggle, they'll be none the wiser. The tables range round the edge of the refectory, so the men opposite are some distance away. But this room is in the west range and well lit at this hour of the day. As the reader, Brother Germanus, competent but rather quiet, goes through the biblical portion set for this evening, then on to the appointed section of commentary, Colin watches Brother Cormac across the room. Colin has his back to the wall set with tall windows to the abbey court. The rays of the low golden sun come slanting through, in some cases right into the eyes of the brothers opposite. This means he can watch Brother Cormac without the cellarer noticing. An interesting man. His black hair streaked with grey, tousles in disorderly curls around his tonsure. His mouth is firm, decisive, and his jaw has a resolute set. The contours of his face are steadfast, shading through to stubborn. Even across the room, the blue of his eyes pierces like shards of ice. His black brows and long eyelashes combine somehow with that fierce blue to give the impression of spikes. You wouldn't argue with him, Colin thinks. You wouldn't even bother to try. The man's hands, as he breaks his bread, are bony, long-fingered, but there is something fastidious in his touch, as there is also a quality in his face, something subdued. What? Colin searches for the feeling of it. Nobility? Refinement? Dignity? Or perhaps something more ordinary, that he feels chastened and unhappy. It could be that. As he watches, he sees the cellarer pick up his half-egg and unobtrusively put it onto the plate of the man next to him, Brother Thaddeus. Colin wonders why he did that. Is it an objection to eating the egg? Is this too a theft of life? Or is he feeling ashamed about the shortages he's created and doing what he can to put things right? He strongly suspects Brother Cormac is not allowed to do what he just did. You're meant to eat what they give you. It's part of being grateful. It's about lowliness. As Colin tears his bread, eats his own half-egg, he reflects on the conversation he overheard standing outside the checker. Cormac's notion that they should respect the lives of beasts and birds is entirely new to him. Did not God put them on earth solely for man's use and pleasure then? Could it be true that they have a point of view of their own? To slaughter the bull calves, to hook the fish from the stream, break the neck of the fattened capon, did that matter? He's never met anybody in all his life so far who advanced an even similar opinion. He thinks back to what the abbot said to him. These things mean a lot to Brother Cormac. And something else begins to take shape in his mind. He felt drawn to this community by what he saw in the brethren, their quiet courtesy, their erudition, the hospitality they offer, their tact and graciousness, so much that he admires and aspires to learn and emulate. In the short time he's been here, he's found the novitiate a cheerful environment. His fellows are good company, reverent but capable of a prank, not slow with their jests, nor very tolerant of sanctimonious piety. But still, the solemns seem to earn the name. Remote in their distant world of full profession, they go about their day, and he's thought of them as the community, the brethren, which, each one self-effacing, they seem to encourage. But now he has the first glimmer of an insight into the reality which is so obvious once he puts his mind to it, that they are only people, human, individual, real. There isn't and yet there is such a thing as the community. That is to say, its arising angel is entirely made up of the effort, the faith, the love of these men. And if they are simply human, people after all, that means they are flawed and quirky. They must have their oddities, like everyone does. Some will be easy for him to live with, others perhaps positively repellent. This was always true, of course it was. But right now, as he watches Brother Cormac sitting in the sunbeam, surreptitiously slipping Brother Thaddeus his egg, it becomes startlingly clear. The community is not an entity, it's just human frailty in all its ordinariness, stitched together with love. It's just 31 men finding the willingness and the courage to say yes again and again and again. Second part of the chapter. Surprisingly often, Abbot John has cause to reflect on how excellent an appointment is Father Francis as prior. Why didn't I see it myself? He often asks himself. Why did it take William to notice that Francis would be the man? For in any rule of any religious order you care to dip into, every detail of the character needed to make a good prior reads like a description of Father Francis. Patient and courteous and diligent? Why, yes, he is. Kind and friendly, a peacemaker? Yes, that's Francis. Adaptable, sociable, humble, intelligent, gentle? All of that. Ready with his smile, tactful, pleasant, a good example as a Christian man? Indeed he is. He can even speak French, and is as much at ease with the aristocracy as with the common man. At first, when you read the outline of what's expected in a prior, you begin to laugh and think, good luck with that. Were you looking for an angel? And then, when you read through a second time, you can't help but notice, wait, but that's our Francis. That is what he's like. Second only to the abbot, and often acting as his deputy, the prior has many duties. He doesn't check everyone's up for nocturnes, nor take round the lantern in the night office. At St Alcuin's, that's the sacristan's job. He does, after Compline, sprinkle them with holy water as they go past him to retire for the night. But he doesn't go so far as to herd them all up like sheep and see to it that every man's in bed. That's not how they do it here. If some want to keep vigil after Compline has ended, that's up to them. And they, who have to be up again at 2:30 to pray, can usually be trusted to go to sleep. But he does keep the keys to the cloister buildings after locking them up last thing at night, and it's about this that Father John comes looking for him on the way out of supper. The abbot sounds slightly apologetic, looks faintly embarrassed. Another of Francis's impressive assortment of talents is that he is exceptionally good at reading people. Sensitive and diplomatic, he avoids putting them on the spot or dragging their vulnerability into the light. But he can't help noticing, in this instance, that the abbot is uncomfortable with how exposed this makes him feel, that having a novice go missing means so much to him. Francis, of your charity, would you delay looking up tonight? In fact, may I take the keys? Because you'll obviously want to get some rest. I don't expect you to sit up waiting, but I'm sure Brother Thomas will be home. It's not that. It's Brother Said. I'd hate it if... I couldn't bear it if he... Oh. Well, I keep thinking if he changed his mind and came home, only to find we'd locked up and gone to bed. I'll ask Brother Martin to leave the postern door unbolted, but I won't leave us without a watchman. I'll stay up, I promise. And if he does come home, I'll secure everything then. So may I, just this once, may I take the keys? And Francis, understanding, obliging, goes directly to fetch them from their nail on the wall in the chequer, brings them straight to his abbot, and gives them into his care. Am I... You don't think I'm being too indulgent? John looks at him anxiously. Francis smiles at him. I believe it has good precedent in the New Testament, he said. How think ye? If a man have 100 sheep, and if one of them be gone astray, doth he not leave the 99 and goeth into the mountains and seek that which is gone astray? John listens, reassured. Yes, he says, for the Son of Man is come to save that which was lost. And then he stops, suddenly uncertain. You don't think... I'm not meant to go and look for him. Father, says Francis, calm and reasonable, as a prior should be. Better not be over hasty. Give him some space. He's not yet made his solemn vows, and he isn't our prisoner. Just cut him some slack. Stop worrying. See what the morning brings. The abbot sees this makes sense, sees this is a sensible, moderate approach. In fact, exactly what you might hope for in a prior. Then he says one thing more, which to John is the best of all, because he really means it. I will be praying for you, John, and for him as well. Lost my bookmark again. Anyway, we're on to chapter 21 next time. Chapter 21 tomorrow. I'll put the book down like this so I don't lose my place. Well, how are you? What's your favourite part of the day? I like the afternoon and the evening, and the shadows lengthen, that mellow time of day, and I love the early morning, the dawn and the sunrise. I'm not so keen on the midday, the blazing sunshine, if it is sunny. And I'm not over keen on the very long dark nights that we get in the winter. I love it when we have the long days of the light. Very beautiful. But I'm glad I live in a place with 4 seasons. So beautiful to see the turning of the year. I hope you're having a good day, whichever part of the day you're in. In just a minute, I'm going to go and make a cup of tea. Perhaps you've had yours already to listen to the story. Let's say a prayer for you. Lord Jesus, please look at this soul here, dear to you, beloved to you. Please bless this soul with your peace, with your comfort, with your joy. Restore to this child of yours the joy of your salvation. Bring your blessing. Bring your hope. Bring the steadiness and clarity of your Holy Spirit. I ask it for your sake. Amen. I hope you're all right. This is turning out to be such a wild time, isn't it? So much turbulence. And now in these days, the sorrow and anguish of police brutality and focus on the terrible persecution of black people in the Western countries by white people, by those who should be their brothers and sisters. And our hearts are grieved. We are so sorry about these evils done in our name. And I pray that we may all find ways to combat them and create a more just society in which all people may flourish, whatever it takes. I pray that we will manage it. Go well. Go well. May your heart be filled with the peace of Christ, because, you know, it is only happy people who can make other people happy. Whatever the woes of the world, don't add to them by being miserable. Reach for happiness. That's how you bless other people.